split versus NYYRIKKI. NYYRIKKI are at this point with 6 consecutive losses. Okay, Jake, what is happening?
I just want to say to any team that are doing the social clash thing, I think I'm like the Sam Allardyce of content. So if you need me to like get you a late league win, I think I can get some 5th to 6th places up into 1st, like just on my own, just putting that out there.
Now, can you do that for these teams? Because they're having a bit of issues too.
Yeah.
One team with 11.
I think I've got an idea for NYYRIKKI right now.
Right.
So you know Boys in the Hood, there's a scene where he shouts, Ricky. You could go, NYYRIKKI! That's just off the top of my head. This is the kind of stuff you get from me.
This is an interesting game due to the fact that Singularity just remade the entire team and they're finding some light in their games. Obviously, they need to get the synergy working together and all that versus NYYRIKKI. And you did a segment on the pre-show talking about how NYYRIKKI could make playoffs. Is this still a thing?
I think back when I said it, I would be happy to make that prediction again. Nowadays, I think that it is really sad, but when you have that many close games, you're not capitalizing, much like M&M, you're in a very difficult position. Likely, you're heading towards relegations at this point. It is between you and M&M. Now, you have been given a bit of a lifeline by M&M, doing similar to what NYYRIKKI have, and now suddenly you're sat there and you are very much worrying about things, and I don't think NYYRIKKI now have it really within their own hands to make playoffs. I think that is now suddenly light at the end of the tunnel, getting very, very dim.
I think if NYYRIKKI loses today, they're out of playoffs as well, and they're really close to relegation.
And it's got to be a game that you don't do it in, right? Against Singularity, I feel like
what a way that would be.
Not to harp on them too much. I feel like it's still a roster that we've, you know, no crap, guys. They've obviously it's changed quite a lot. We've got to see what kind of a team this is still, but no one wants to be the first team to lose to Singularity. I feel like in a way. And if that ends up happening, if that's the way that they end their playoffs run, that could be unfortunate for them, I feel like.
Well, shall we jump into Champion Select and see how they fare? Let's jump into the Champion Select. Hit the button.
You can hit the button. Yeah.
Oh, that was... Well, we still go to the Champion Select with that. You complain about social media, but you can't hit a button?
Where's the button?
There you go.
Oh, you found it. It's in there.
It's original, I guess. As we jump into it, and it's going to be Volibear, the first ban away. What else can we see being removed? Is this the usual?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at Singularity as a team that has a lot of comfort picks that we've seen so far. I think that is going to have to be the training wheels this team is on, because we've seen these same these new 5 players, or rather, Zpikee still there, but the new roster, right? Going towards comfort and still having a lot of pitfalls hitting towards them. They're not as coordinated as they could be, and I feel like there are a lot of times where even in their games with this new roster, which have had some bright moments, the team play isn't there yet. I think they have to crutch on that comfort. So I'm looking, I mean, Spikee's obviously played a lot of this before, but maybe we are going to see stuff like Kha'Zix again. Maybe we are going to see a couple of things around the map which are less common in pro play because they just need it to be those training wheels.
Yeah, I want to go off of what NYYRIKKI is saying. I think champions like the Kha'Zix, you see someone like Yike in the LFL who pulls out quite a lot in situations where you can benefit from slowing the game down a little bit. Obviously, I think seeing here, they've gone for the exact opposite of it. We've gone for quite high-paced jungling. The Lilia-Udyr matchup is it's a bit of a trade-off in terms of tempo. They're both going to be full clearing on repeat until the cows go home.
It's spring 2021 again, apparently, with the Lilia versus Udyr. Of course, Lilia can go top lane. We'll see if there is going to be something like a tank top lane locked in. You can very much flex that towards top lane, but when you do have this matchup, it is very much about can you protect your jungle camps. We actually talked a little bit about Bel'Veth earlier in the day. The reason that's relevant is because it's a very similar kind of story there. You're playing for jungle advantage. Now, these champions are much better at securing their own jungle advantage versus each other, but I'm looking at the lanes now to say, can you protect your raptors? Can you protect your wolves? Can you protect your buffs? Because that becomes a really big thing when the items on your junglers mean more and more because they are back to a kind of an older meta than we're seeing currently.
I think for me, immediately, what Singularity have done here is a little bit too magic damage heavy for me in terms of, I feel like they've quite...
Zarya has a lot too.
Yeah, they've identified their theme quite clearly, I think, for me. Swain very much wants to play into that kind of low-range composition. It's now very much on NYYRIKKI not to play into that theme further. I think you've already got the Corki to bolster that range. Maybe want to see a top lane with a little bit more range as well, but yeah, I feel like they've rounded off Darius on R5 here.
Yeah, and
it's a fast one for the top side as well.
Oh, it's actually all locked completely. There we go.
It is locked in.
I was wondering if there was going to be any, you know, deliberation about this. But, you know, Banderas, we see that that Fiora ban away, we see the Olaf ban. Banderas has played for individual matchup in a way that a couple of other top laners have. Of course, we saw Jax blank in that last game. The most notable person for doing that at the NLC. Picking up a Darius can very much win against Camille, who I mean, I was trying to remember whose tier list it was, but they were looking at Camille matchups, and Darius is just like a do not pick Camille into Darius. You start losing this matchup very, very hard. Ever since the durability matchup, it has gotten worse. So now suddenly, if you're not winning in that jungle matchup, which then allows you to kind of flow through the map with a very powerful jungler, Darius gets to sit on that side lane, destroy towers, and then come to a team fight. You don't have much to say about that either.
And if you get him some sort of lead, it's a really complicated match for Camille. And I think Udyr is the perfect guy to give that sort of lead. I don't see Lilia giving a lead to the Camille.
No, I feel like Lilia is more kind of... The onus is on her to kind of commit a lead on the other side of the map, almost, for me. I feel like as if you're putting too much resources into the top side, you're not getting the same benefits out of it that Udyr does. Udyr can be more binary in his pathing and then benefit more from doing so. Well,
what's your take? Final takes?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it.
I think it is going to come down to a lot about jungle matchup and then, of course, side laning pressure later on. So watch what happens to the early pathing. See what happens with that wave control to see if any random openings are given to set these lanes ahead or behind.
It's an important game for both teams, as on one side, Singularity are trying to make something happen with this new roster. On the other side, NYYRIKKI cannot allow themselves to lose just because M&M lost the previous one. This is a way to jump away from relegations, and this is some way to get the mentality working on Singularity. Without further ado, I'll toss it to the casters. It is Initialized in trouble.
As always, are here to take away for the second game, and it's a very interesting one. Both these teams have been struggling. Singularity across the whole split. NYYRIKKI on a 6-game loss streak, and as the desk was saying, look, for all that M&M have largely looked better, I think, than NYYRIKKI, they're still on the same game score, and it doesn't matter how well you've been playing if the wins aren't coming through and you win this, and suddenly you get that game advantage, and that's a massive deal.
I completely agree. It doesn't matter if M&M have thrown 1, 2, 15, 16 games, right? The fact that they are tied with NYYRIKKI right now, it gives them the chance to not only surpass them, but also have more hopes to reach in the playoffs as we do go into Summoner's Rift for Singularity versus NYYRIKKI. Again, I think it's been a sad story for NYYRIKKI as well, because Banderas has also popped up in an interview and he was like, of course we're making playoffs. And it is doable. Still, X7 are on 6 wins, Bifrost are on 7 wins, these guys are sitting on 3 wins, and we have 6 more games left, apart from the 2 teams that played previously.
Exactly.
We have 5. So it's a really close race. If you start winning games right now for NYYRIKKI, you can actually make it work. For Singularity, I think it's cookie points. The fact that a whole new roster just came in right after halfway through the split, and I think they've showed a lot of promise.
What jungle is Flipper playing? Because it's definitely not Udyr.
I knew you were gonna.
I'm sorry. That was very low-hanging fruit, but sometimes it's the easiest snacks are the tastiest.
I'm getting a really bad flavor from the Lilia versus Udyr, because that was 2021
spring
jungle meta.
It was a thing.
Hecarim's and Graves and Udyrs and Lilias, and the fact that they would farm for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then you would start having...
And then, or lose it Scuttle Crab at 3 minutes.
Yeah, but then Scuttle Crab was worth it.
True. Also, yeah, it was probably, in fairness.
It was worth the flash smite.
I say that as a jungler who would probably have inted for Crab a few too many times.
Wait.
Don't look at my solo queue.
For the crab that was worth more XP or the nerfed one?
I'm not going to comment.
Great, it's this one. Congratulations.
Whatever gets me to level 6 faster on Evelyn is worth doing.
Okay,
as you can see, my elo is not particularly high, and that might be part of it with that mindset. But I enjoy pressing R and blowing people up, and winning's a nice byproduct occasionally. But as it stands, Zpikee in person here, gonna try and do what they can. And Zpikee, remember, the one kind of remaining member of the Singularity roster after their massive roster shift, but Abagnale on his famous Nautilus, starting off some of these trades as well. And honestly, when we were kind of prepping for this game, both teams have been struggling, but a name that we look back to spring on as Banderas, actually, we're not going to give us a chance to talk about that as he gets the full bleed stack onto Sips, but Spiving Pop the Ghost won't go for any more.
But Sips is actually running the cookies, and Banderas has wasted his Ghost at this point. So this was his chance to potentially try and pull a flash from Sips, like they're trying to pull a flash off of Zpikee right here in the bot lane. But the fact that Sips actually stands his ground, does not flash away, has the cookies, he is going to regen back to most likely 3/4 of his HP bar. That puts Banderas in a non-kill zone. Because as you can see, Sips is also running the Ignite, which means on a 1 versus 1, where Banderas does not have his Ghost to chase Sips away. Sips can put down the damage, can put down the Ignite. He's undiveable at this point. Yeah. And very well done right here. Banderas realizes also he doesn't have his jungle towards the top side of the map, but there is no dive potential right here. Sips is also gonna maybe interrupt the back. No, he's gonna let it happen. But
It's back to spring again in more ways than one. As Abagnale finds his way out of lane. This is how NYYRIKKI used to try and find some of their advantages. And Mirza forced a flash away from the dredge line. That was a very smooth level 2 roam.
There was a little bit of misexecution right there from Abagnale because you could have walked onto Swain, booped him with the passive, root him in place, then you anchor, and then you will have to force a flash. Mirza flashes, of course, anyway, because he flashes away from the anchor in the first place, but there is a chance that you could potentially pull a very cheeky kill having Ignite on Abagnale's Nautilus as well. But now, look at that. Screwed towards the top side of the map, knows there is no Ghost on Banderas. It's going to help Sips crush his wave as well. Talking about Screwdy,
Indeed.
I feel like he's brought a pretty good shine of light in the dark days, let's say, that Singularity are going through, because right now we mentioned it, they're not playing for playoffs, they're playing to not get relegated, and they're playing for cookie points. If Singularity beats any of these teams will suffer in their chances of making playoffs themselves. Now, I feel like Screwdy has had pretty good ganking timers. He's always on the waves that he should be. He's always helping his laners. And so far, he hasn't necessarily made any moves that have made him to be a liability in the early game or overextending for any reason. So I've liked the energy and the proactivity that he's brought. Obviously, here with Lilia, we're looking for potentially level 6 until we start seeing some ganks going on. As for Udyr, I will not comment.
Slight rage there from the Katarina player. I wonder why, but do you want to cause one out? So we've got another bit of an aggressive trade, but Scroody's down here, having come down from the top side. Great Zenith blade, flash away from Abagnale, who needs to try and get away. A flash, watch out, Eep! Secures first blood for none other than Scroody.
And we just mentioned it, Scroody has impeccable ganking timers. The fact that Azitor and Abagnale were trying to shove in that wave really quickly, crush it under tower, give Azitor his first back, grab some items, come back into lane, but Scroody is right there to punish the fact that this bot lane is overextended. Azitor is still overextended, as you will see. Person will wrap around, but they do not know where the Udyr is, and also Abagnale is back on his way to the lane, and Person might be actually in trouble here.
He's going to get bound by that Eclipse from Azitor. Not getting anything too much more, but the flash is down.
The ghost. That's slow on the ghost.
That's a bit frustrating. Can't quite make it happen. Well, they get the summoner at least, and Azitor keeping up okay in the CS. And again, this was a player before we got a little bit interrupted by some of the aggressive trades. It's someone who was a bit of a superstar for NYYRIKKI in spring. His Jinx in particular was really something special. He'd not really been able to pull it together as well as he could in spring, though.
He had 8 Aphelios games in spring.
He did.
And 6 Jinx games.
Yes.
We mentioned that this guy gets unscarfed out of lane, he will carry the team fights on something like an Aphelios, on something like a Jinx. Now, recently on an interview, he said, you know what, I would like to try that early game. I want to show that I have more sides than one. I can actually carry the early game. I can play the Kalistas, the Dravens, the Samiras, and they haven't necessarily worked wonders for the side of NYYRIKKI. Now here, Banderas is only level 5.
It's a very long sleep that Scroody might be looking to go towards, but not quite going to happen yet. No lilting lullaby, no anesthesia required, and Banderas not put under.
I kind of feel like maybe there was an
option there,
where you dive him, but obviously Sips, knowing how many creeps away Banderas was from hitting level 6, it starts becoming a little bit more dangerous.
It would have been risky.
Yeah.
But either way, they don't decide to take that risk and pull away. And Banderas gets to level 6, gets to clear the wave, and isn't too unduly punished by that. And again, as we kind of mentioned briefly earlier, both of these top laners very much running aggressive spells. There is a Ghost, there is an Ignite, there are no teleports. These guys are purely playing for that 1v1.
Kill each other.
It's top lane as it should be.
Especially when you're under Darius as well, you definitely want the Ghost to be able to chase down your opponents, right? Moving back into the Udyr, because I left a point right there about how I dislike Udyr, and I didn't necessarily elaborate further.
Are you going to take this moment to throw out why you dislike this champion?
No, I'm actually going to say positive things about him for once.
What? Are you okay? What have you done with Troubling?
I like this champion because he farms really quickly, he clears really quickly, which allows him to shadow lanes once he's cleared that fast.
Quick question. Why is that different to Graves?
Plus, really good at taking dragons. Azitor in trouble.
He does have to flash away, but they're still going to try and get in with that Zenith Blade. Forced away a little bit by Abagnale, who's doing his best to keep this one turned around. Big Moonlight Vigil, though, will not allow Abagnale to stay alive. He's burnt out by the Dream Dust.
Really well done again by Scrooty, finding the opening towards the bottom of the map. Again, Azitor and Abagnale trying to crush another big stacked wave. He punishes again, but what Udyr is really good at doing, he's very fast at clearing. He's also very quick at taking neutral objectives, like Rift Herald, like Dragons, and so far as you can see, Scrooty, same level with Flipper. But what has Flipper done on the map? He's made sure that heis top lane is shadowed, his top lane is safe.
There's a Hex Flash, he's in trouble. Gonna try and get out of here best he can. He's gonna get rooted though by Abagnale. His passive trying to get out, but he's ignited and shut down. And of course it goes into Azitor's pocket. We've praised this guy for his early plays, but suddenly he gives it all away as Flipper finds Sips of all people. And this trade is going a little bit back and forth, but he's forced out of the river.
Pretty good stuff right there for Azitor to pick up a freebie inside his jungler's jungle. Didn't belong to him anymore. But again, Udyr, very strong at taking neutral objectives, has secured the first Dragon of the game, has secured the first Herald of the game. 2 minutes to go. Now that Azitor has actually cashed in, he's going to be able to go back, put this gold into items, make sure he's first in river. You've got Udyr, who's going to be there in time. You're going to have Corki, who's going to be there in time, shoving in that wave. So again, having that full clear speed from Flipper on Udyr means that you get into these first neutral objectives, means that by the time Singularity are going to start taking dragons, you can actually FF them and try to go towards that more late game because you have the FLOs, you have the Corki. So stacking them up right now wins you more minutes later on. As you will see, they'll shove even more gold into Azitor's pocket.
Despite some pretty flashy early plays down towards the bot side, it's still going to be 4, pretty much guaranteed to be 5 plates with the use of the last dregs of Crescendum as well. And suddenly it's a 1,000 gold lead as Aero might be caught out here though.
Drowsy.
Flash plus that Valkyrie still not going to get him out to safety. Dies to Scrooty, who gets a 3rd kill and now can start trading onto the rest of it. It's a 3v2. Make that a 4v3 as Azitor tries to throw out a Moonlight Vigil, but it just will not be quite enough. And the night is indeed long and dark as Scrooty continues to hunt for more damage. The Fawn from the Forests of Dreams doing their absolute best to chunk out the AD carry, but will not die. And Singularity continue to play through their jungler and find some success there, especially after that bot side got so dicey.
Yeah, Scrooty so quick into pulling the trigger, finds Aero mispositioned inside his jungle, but I want you to look at all these wards inside. Never mind, we're gonna see the replay. You can look at the wards right after. So again, this is the greediness when you play Corki, Azir, Veigar. You want the chickens. You want to take the chickens. You know that you have 3 members of the bot side of the map to try and aid you, but Scrooty is very quick on the trigger, punishes that. Abagnale drops as well. They take Azitor out of the fight too, very, very low. Barely survives with his life, has to blow the cleanse, which means that bot side of the map does belong to Singularity. Now, if you look at the minimap,
I will.
Thank you very much, observers. You'll see that it's lit up in red towards the bottom map. Why is that? Because second dragon is spawning. NYYRIKKI want to be there. Remember that gold Azitor got from the plates and the kill. It's netted him a Gale Force already.
Still going to come straight over with the package. There goes Aero to get across the other side of the Dragon Pit. Once again, caught out somewhat in enemy territory there as Person. Might look for an angle over there, but Flipper chunked out as this dragon spawns, and that will leave Singularity to claim this one. And honestly, despite the gold lead to NYYRIKKI, and again, a lot of plates going over to Banderas, he's very happily taking that option up there. Still some good plays from Singularity early.
Aero got caught again on the same exact position. Blows the package away, which means a lot of your tools, like the fact that Azitor has Gale Force, will have his Moonlight Vigil very shortly as well, means that there's a huge power spike onto your Aphelios right now. You have the movement from the Gale Force as well to get away from any possible threatening scenarios, whilst Banderas is taking top side with all of the turret plating, so everything's going NYYRIKKI's way. Aero mispositions once, loses the package, they cannot fight this dragon anymore, which means that Singularity take one for themselves.
They do indeed, but NYYRIKKI still have got 5 plates, including first turret blood onto Azitor, alongside a shutdown onto Scrooty. He's got a cull that will pop into any CS. Like this, Aphelios has been well and truly set up for success, as you said, with the Gale Force in, and not necessarily the easiest to deal with if they can kind of put the Udyr and the Nautilus and the Darius in front of the Aphelios, and you try to dive into that, and that might be a mistake. So they're going to try and keep Azitor alive best they can.
And you know how a lot, like in the previous game, we mentioned how Chimera on the Swain was so pivotal at allowing his team and his carry specifically all this space to play the team fights around. this time, you have so much pull coming in from
Rudy.
Oh.
He's just never done. There's always another
was
dream.
there.
Take him straight to LA, and he's going to try and make this what a Hollywood movie, but maybe he's going to be a turnaround till the Swalsey lands. Scroody with a gorgeous play does go down, but it's still a 2-for-1. This Lilia is a menace on the Rift.
A 2-for-1. You've got the entire bot lane from NYYRIKKI going towards the top side of the map. Aero has to block his TP as well, which means that mid lane and bot lane are free to push from the side of Singularity. And Scroody is absolutely tearing the map apart with this Lilia. He's playing very aggressive. He's used his level 6 ultimate every time almost off cooldown to try and get kills and things happening onto the map. As you will see here, Banderas thinks he's pretty safe. I mean, that plate is pretty juicy, I'm not gonna lie, but the fact that he does tag him, that means that he gets to pop the sleep and put down a bunch of damage, and that is Scroody with one mythic item already in his pocket, and even though Flipper is there, he cannot stop the snipe from going down. Now, I do feel this is a little bit maybe greedy from Scroody, because once the ultimate from Camille goes down, he can try to walk away, but all the bleeds and the dots that he had on him from the Udyr and the Darius thing would have killed him anyway.
100% kill participation for the Lilia right now. 4-2-2. Leandri's complete. Stopwatch and inventory. Very ahead of the game. Held 2 levels over Flipper in a matchup where both are supposed to be able to farm pretty evenly. Is a massive advantage for Singularity's jungler. Now, though, it's still going to be a player Zabignali looking to make something happen here. Flipper going to get as much done as they can. Scroody flashing away, still has a stopwatch. It isn't yet to be used. Person flashing out, having used the Solar Flare as well. And Singularity disengaged, but their health bars are certainly very low.
Yeah, they're out, and there's huge seeds happening in the mid lane tower. Person is super low, but I don't think it's necessarily diveable right here, because you just have an Aphelios and a Corki. You need to put down the pain, you need to put down the hurt like this. But again, because we're very early stages of the game, you're not necessarily too scared of the rockets hitting you. That is a mana Muna that hasn't turned into more mana yet for the Corki. Aphelios only with the Gale Force, not willing to commit the ultimate to try and kill the Leona. So all in all, you lose a little bit of your HP bars right there, but nothing massive for Singularity.
Banderas, once again, trying to work out how safe he is to push. The answer is not very safe at all.
Ult is up. He's using it off of cooldown. This is crazy.
Knows exactly what to do with the advantage. This is a pretty good example of how to try and take over the game as a jungler. And of course, still behind in gold. Worth noting, NYYRIKKI have done a good job, as we said, of getting slightly more resources, particularly onto their AD carry, where a lot of that is the discrepancy. But it still feels like Scroody is the one with the proactive plays in this game.
Yeah, and I think this is why we highlighted him at the beginning when we said that Singularity's roster completely changed halfway through the split. I think Scroody brought a bunch of that proactivity in the early game in a very good way. His timing in the ganks is so well mannered. The fact that he will always catch somebody trying to crush a wave, the fact that he will always be there for his top laner when they need to crush a wave, his understanding on the map, even though this is not a Singularity at top-notch macro and micro, his understanding of how he wants to play the map is still up there.
Very much so. And a reminder, NYYRIKKI on a 6-game loss streak. They are in a very difficult position, having gone from 3-3 to 3-9. There are 6 games combined with left to play, of course, including this one. Scroody, as you said, is around here. They get a hold of that tower. They've got a Herald and inventory as well. And if Singularity win this game, there we go, finally figured out how to phrase that. There's some of these statements around how things like relegations look, with M&M also losing. Keep things very interesting going into these last few weeks as playing to the top side commits, but that is a decent package. Scroody goes golden, but there is the chunk onto Banderas, who does fall, flash away from Sips. Aero gets outside of that attempted solar flare with a decent Valkyrie, but it's still a dead top laner, and Singularity continue to make plays.
And what does that get you? Because if you look top side of the map, Abagnale is on his way there. Person's going to stay around. Scroody's going to stay around. Sips is there, and they also have Rift Herald, which I'm sure they just popped over the top side of the map. They're going for potentially that even inhibit a tower bop. Because as you can see, Singularity's bot lane is also roaming top.
Aero so low, that's a decent use of the... Wow, Person's gone very deep there. Never mind talking about the depth. Charge Person going to get chunked out. Will not quite fall quite yet. Zpikee throws out the Ultra Shock Laser, but it won't chunk through, and Person now going to have to run away. They get the tier 2, but they won't be able to get too much more, as Person was dragged a little bit further than they were anticipating there.
All right, so this is Singularity with the cross map. They take 2 towers on the top side of the map. This is 1 dragon for NYYRIKKI. And of course, NYYRIKKI, this is a win condition for them. Luckily for Singularity, this is only going to be a Cloud Soul. So you don't necessarily care too much to give this particular one away, but if Azitor manages to get the mid lane tower here, I think this is so worth it for the side of NYYRIKKI. Breaking mid lane is one of the most important towers to break because it breaks a lot of the vision control around that tower, and also the fact that they have 2 dragons going towards the soul, taking down mid tower is worth it versus the 2 towers top trade.
I think it's time
Oh no.
to check in. Wrong thing, wrong one. That's the button I needed. No one saw that. I pressed the wrong one. Now look at some more pets. Look at that hashtag NLC pets. Throw those up on Twitter. My dog left and his sister reunited after 8 years. That's adorable. And they are indeed very distinguished. Jack Ace Doe. Look at that.
Oh, it was a sibling reunion.
Oh, look at that. Look at the little, like, what's it, a bandana around the neck as well?
I've always wondered.
Yeah. What have you always
Do you
wondered?
think they actually recognized each other?
That's a question I feel like they often do.
Yeah.
Dogs got very good memory for sense of smell and stuff.
Right. That's sort of always wondered. It's like, because a lot of them get separated, you know, they go to different owners and whatnot. But when they just, you know, what if you're walking past somebody on the street like Flipper is right now?
He was very close to being
Yeah.
engaged there. That was a very nice little throw, by the way. I appreciate that. I was just like, I just looked down the screen and went, I probably ought to pay attention. There could be someone dying.
What if you're walking to, like, past somebody on the street, right? And they have a dog and you have a dog and they look very similar, and you don't even know that your dogs are like siblings. Do the dogs know that they're siblings?
I feel like you are setting up for like a very intense like TV show or documentary here.
I'll have it in mind when I retire.
It's time. Go throw that one out. Get like Steven
When I
Spielberg.
retire, I'll go full-on dog documentary mode.
The thing is, I could see you like getting very serious about that, as Sips just about avoids the bowling ball. And let's be real.
I mean, Sips...
So, of course, yeah, Scrooty would be team killing there, which
I'm
is not
sorry,
generally.
my whole dog conversation.
I know. Was throwing me off a little bit there. You know, like this isn't a game with friendly fire enabled. That would be a nightmare. Though I'll say, interestingly, because Swain's in the game, I'll take this moment to talk about this. We've got a little bit of dead time before the next dragon stuff spawns. Swain, when they were reworking him from his previous, even more bird-related self, there used to be the way his passive worked, where he used to get those soul shards. But I think they've kind of taken that down a little bit of a notch. The way it used to work is if your teammates died, you could claim the soul shards. And obviously that was problematic when basically you would encourage your teammates to empower you.
That sounds like me. I'm letting everyone die and then I clean up.
Exactly. So basically Swain would just like
all me.
sacrifice yourselves for the glory of Noxus and give me your power, which wasn't the healthiest thing in solo queue when they were testing it.
And he blew his flash.
He's certainly not healthy indeed, as Scroody going to try and do their best. So the ultimate comes through, not going to quite bleed out. And Sip gets away with it, Noxian Guillotine, even with standing.
It's outstanding how Singularity have shut down a Banderas on the top side of the map. If a Darius gets snowballing, he could be a complete terror in team fights. But now, if you look at what's going to be happening in the team fights, you've got Mirza, who's permanently proccing Rylai's and Mandate, which means that the second Darius is going to try to walk past that Swain, he's going to get insta-slowed, won't be able to reach his target very easily, and the fact that he has no other gap closure apart from his flash, which is now down, it's going to be a very difficult and sad time for the Darius to play these team fights. Also, if he does make it to the backline, you've got a Camille, you've got a Leona to provide even more peeling and CC if you need it in the team fight. So the fact that Banderas has not snowballed, the fact that Banderas cannot put at bay that Camille on the side lane is going to make his life a little bit more difficult later on.
What NYYRIKKI do have, though, is 2 items on Corki and 2 items on the Aphelios.
Very well spotted.
Which is definitely something to try and play around, especially with about 30 seconds until this cloud. The problem is on the other side, you have 100% kill participation, 6 kills.
Yes, that's what I raised you, sir.
There's also the Imperial Mandate build on the Swain who's got that complete as well to empower, guess what? That Lilia to do even more work. It's going to be just fighting for control of the mid lane is the current order of play in this game.
And I think if you're NYYRIKKI and you're not ready to fight this, but seeing how they've actually moved Banderas towards the bot side of the map, it looks like they want to fight it, but he doesn't have flash. We mentioned how difficult it is to play this team fight if you do not have flash, but also, wait, they're actually going to go for it.
Okay, they've got the package, it's time.
Yeah.
Moromana's transformed, Leandries is in. This is NYYRIKKI's time to shine. They've decided. Person just about by the skin of their teeth escapes that dredge line, and NYYRIKKI trying to force their way into the river.
Scrooty is already going to start the dragon, and if NYYRIKKI want a chance at stealing this, they actually need to start walking in. Package is
Again,
up.
their Ghost is down, but that will be the dragon dead already over the wall. Mirza lands and never move, but flash in from Scrooty, who gets chunked out, falls! themselves cannot make it work, and that is a dead Lilia, and 2 already going the way of NYYRIKKI, who are winning this fight, but Abagnale trying to flash away his Mercer, going in with the demonic Ascension running rampant, trying to stay alive, but it's still another big win for NYYRIKKI, who are coming out with every single member of Singularity.
They can actually run it for Baron right now. Udyr doesn't look down, but they have Corki, and they have Aphelios as well. They can actually take Baron down. Ace for the side of NYYRIKKI. And the second we started praising Singularity, they fall prey to their own god. Scrooty overextends and screws up the fight, ends up dying without using his hourglass, and due to that, Banderas gets another reset down the bot side of the map, which ends up costing Mercer's life as well. And this is why we say, okay, Singularity might not have the best micro and macro, but they have pretty good ganking time, as this one was not the best ganking timer ever, because as you can see, the whole of NYYRIKKI will evade through that choke point. Guess what's on that choke point? The entire flaming carpet from Aeros Corki. So the second Sips dives in there, he gets burned. Mercer dives in there, he gets burned. Banderas kills Zpikee onto that Zeri, gets the reset, kills Mercer as well. So it was a complete disaster. They kept running towards the package.
Credit to Abagnale there, who landed the clutchest dredge line of his life. There was a flash watch out Eep that was interrupted into a bear slap, and the Lilia is CC'd to death. There's no chance for Blooming Blows to get across the whole team and put them all to sleep. And that Lilia that's still at 100% kill participation was taken straight out and sent to sleep on her own terms. But now Flipper in trouble, taken very low. Maybe NYYRIKKI have gotten a little overconfident. They're going to get stunned by a good solar flare. Continue to chase forward. Mercer with the demonic ascension rolling rampant, doing their absolute best to do it. There is still a big sleep coming through onto Azitor, who will fall down, sips to the backside, gets the Hextech ultimate onto Abagnale. Scrooty heading forward to the Blooming Blow, trying to get that one, but this time goes golden under the tower. Needs to try and find the way forward to Aero. Stays alive, but the Baron buff is neutered in moments.
Yeah, that was a really nice engage right there. Flipper overextends, and even though Flipper gets out, his bot lane that tries to back him up does not. So, if you're wondering why these two teams are the two at the bottom, you see a little bit of glimpses of overextension, over-eagerness, being where they shouldn't be on the map. Aero gets caught twice, they lose the dragon. Flipper overextends, he loses his bot lane. And why this is so important is because NYYRIKKI won a pretty brilliant fight.
Well done, Mercer.
Very nice, Mercer.
That was a very good Visions of Empire.
A very brilliant aced fight, which then netted them the Baron, but they cannot necessarily use it right now because they've lost it from Azitor and Abagnale. So 2 members have lost it. Sips is toying with the idea of possibly getting ganked, so he's going to back off. But then again, you see, NYYRIKKI make good moves, they end up throwing it away. Singularity make good moves, they end up throwing it away. This reminds me of the Singularity versus Astralis game.
It does a bit.
No, sir, you can win. Oh, no, sir, I cannot accept that win. You can win.
They've all turned to American football. It's not League of Legends anymore. It's becoming quarterbacks, throwing as far as they can. Perhaps a little rude, but come on, it was funny. I'll say that myself. I can say that because I have no shame.
You can say that and laugh at it as well.
I did.
Exactly.
Exactly. I again, have very little shame.
If you don't laugh at your own jokes, how do you expect other people to?
Indeed, exactly. I just know I'm funny. That's how it works. It's true. No one can tell me otherwise.
Wish people could see my face. That's all I'm going to say.
I suspect in the post-game show they might just add that in just to sort of like throw me under the bus. Be about half the course, let's be real. I deserve it, let's be real. The ego's getting a little large here. Faked or otherwise. But 26 minutes into the game, we've still got 100% kill participation on Scrooty, FY, and 3 items in. And yes, the Lilia died once there a little egregiously, but with a minute or so until another dragon, I'm
going to make it a healthy game.
Do tell me.
Drink an orange juice shot every time Initiala says Scrooty with 100% kill participation.
I'll say it until it's not.
Yes.
That's fair. I'm just going to make you drink a lot of orange juice,
healthy.
guys.
Orange juice.
Exactly.
Yes.
Get that vitamin C in your life. Watch. Here we go. Scrooty with 100% of my confidence.
Perfect. If you don't like orange juice, because some people don't like juice, do water. That's also good.
What kind of water?
Watery water.
Watery water, ah, yes. My favorite kind of water. Watery water, yes.
Very liquidy.
As opposed to what? The solid version ice.
The see-through kind.
I know the humidity's been a bit brutal over the last few weeks, but I don't think that counts either as Banderas. Hit by a never move, and we've swiftly dropped off the deep end into some watery water, apparently, and they're into the river where there's even more of that substance.
The dragon has come to wake us up.
Dude, it's
From
Cloud
our,
Drake. It's not an Ocean Drake, though.
From our Samba. And as you can see, Aero, I think, is waiting for his package.
Yes.
To just spawn. He's been zoomed
There
in
it is.
by our observers.
Teleport available as well.
Very much observing him. The fight could start at any point, and Singularity are in the exact same spot that they were. The only difference is look at Aero on your minimap. He's literally flanking right behind them. I do not think
Flash,
that vision.
dredge, line. The damage started to come through. Scrooty being forced away by the depth charge. He's not involved in the fight, but so much damage actually going back as NYYRIKKI are the ones being forced to run away. The lilting lullaby is monstrous indeed, and they are sent swiftly back to their fountain.
Okay, remember really quickly what happened when we celebrated Eminem winning a fight and Corki was still alive. Azitor, Aero still alive. The two carries from the side of NYYRIKKI, and as people with low HP bars, they have to bail.
Sips will get out of there with that use of the E. The hook shot gets them out. Aero going over the wall. Will miss that rocket. And Singularity get themselves to Soul Point, get themselves a kill. Get themselves a pretty good position in this game. Let's have a look at this one more time, because I thought with that package and that dredge line, should have been NYYRIKKI's to win.
That was pretty well done right there onto Sips, but he's playing the Camille. He's able to generate the shield. He is able to use his ultimate to evade a lot of the damage. And then Scrooty again with another beautiful flash to mark everyone for that deep sleep and push them away from that river. And you know what? He still has 100% kill participation.
He does indeed. You said it though, so they can't drink yet.
Exactly, that's why I said it before you said it.
All right, people, get that orange juice, get that watery water ready. Scrooty has the 100% kill participation still, 12 out of 12 thus far. A very, very impressive performance so far from the Singularity jungler. In a game that, again, there is still a world where Singularity can avoid relegation, just about. They've got 6 games that they need to win, a lot of them back-to-back, but they could just about squeak
They've got
out.
6 games, and Eminem just lost theirs today.
Indeed.
And they still have 3 wins. So technically, they have 6 games, and they have to win 3 of them, at least.
If you can start, if NYYRIKKI and Eminem don't win anything, there's a world.
You just have to play JDXL and Riddle.
No big deal. They're not very good in the league, are they? They're nowhere near the top 2.
They're
all right, yep. If you've not worked that one out, guys, we're being incredibly sarcastic. They are brutal teams to have to play when considering your relegation lives are on the line. And again, some of those Div 2 teams are looking pretty scary. And while the likes of, say, M&M might be feeling pretty confident going into a best-of-5 from what we've seen from them here, teams like Singularity have had to do a lot of shuffles, really struggled to find form. Hell, even NYYRIKKI here might be looking at some of those teams and going, that looks a bit scary.
And I just want to remind everyone how we've had an NYYRIKKI interview, and I'm pretty sure it was Banderas, and he's like, nah, we're making playoffs. Like,
they really believe it, and they're not that far away.
They're not that far away. They are 3 wins away from the last playoffs team, which right now is X7 in 6th place with 6 wins. So if they win this today, they get 2 wins away from X7.
Exactly. You need at least the 50% win rate, assuming no outside factors like, X7 winning a game or 2, which is, of course, a possibility indeed, as Baron was started in person, avoids the dredge line. Abagnale's been making a few of those pretty scary over the last few minutes, but 30 minutes on the clock. It's another game that's going a little bit late. It's a pretty tense one still. NYYRIKKI with that gold lead, as we've said, but it still felt like Singularity are the ones with that proactivity.
And again, these 2 teams resort into team fighting because if you look at the 2 top laners, they're not running the teleport, which means you cannot pressure side lane, and if you do pressure side lane, you need to make sure that you will kill your opponent to create even more pressure, potentially threaten a tower, potentially threaten an inhibitor while your team is fighting 4 versus 5. But due to the fact that none of the 2 top laners can actually enter a fight from far away, meaning they don't have teleport, it's very difficult to do so. Also, it's very dangerous to put your Corki on a side lane to deep push, same as it is for your Swain, which are your 2 main AP carries. Not for both teams, because you also have Lilia from one side, but they're key members that you cannot afford to lose, especially the Swain in a fight where he creates so much space for his team. It will be impossible to fight without him. So these 2 teams, unfortunately, will have to resort to just team fighting around neutral objectives.
Not to interrupt there, but of course Banderas got hit by the swell seed and had to pop the ghost because he was feeling at risk of being run down there. So that will be a pretty important summoner for some of those team fights down for the Darius, especially with a minute or so to go until what would be Soul for Singularity. And while Cloud Soul can often be a little bit hit and miss about how useful people think it is, a Lilia, a Swain, yeah, exactly, the Zeri as well, all these people for Singularity, of course with Yudi on the other side, as you said as well, would love to have that additional movement speed when they press R.
Completely agree with you, and NYYRIKKI do too. They've set up a bunch of vision towards the bot side of the map. They are going to take the scuttle grab as well. 50 seconds until the next dragon spawns, which is going to be soul for Singularity. Only soul point for NYYRIKKI if they manage to take it. Now, the thing is, when you are sitting very comfortably on soul point and the opponent team does not have soul point, you can allow yourself another 5 minutes. You can say, screw it, we go for next one. If you need specific items, if you need more vision, and especially right now that we're looking at the Corki, the package is about to spawn, which means that you might not want to fight against Aeros Corki when he does have that package available. So you can say, fine, NYYRIKKI, take that third dragon.
Worth pointing out as well, 4 items in for the Corki, 3 items plus Last Whisper plus Stopwatch in for the Aphelios as well. Yes, NYYRIKKI have felt a little bit on the back foot, but they've got the items to put some serious hurt down onto Singularity at this fight. And I wonder whether the break point has been hit, as that damage is just really hitting home now.
Level 17 from the Corki, 2 levels up on his counterpart Mirza, level 15. Doesn't quite have that third point on his ultimate. Swain with 3 points of the ultimate is going to be pretty much invincible at this point, but you see the fact that Aero is actually poking him away. Right here, I think Singularity might want to cheekily try and threaten a Baron, knowing that there's only 4 members of NYYRIKKI, but yet again, you do not want to fight NYYRIKKI when that Corki has package.
The battle lines were drawn, a few warning shots were fired by Aero, and they didn't feel much like warnings at all, and Singularity was swiftly forced to retreat towards that top
hitting me too. Slowly but surely this game.
I'm watching you literally sink down, so you can't see this, but I was watching Trouble sort of like slowly melt towards the floor. It's like, you know, have you seen those people when they're behind desks like prevent to like walk downstairs or be on the elevator? It was basically like that, but like the Wicked Witch of the West going, I'm melting!
Hi, what's happening?
Basically that.
Close enough. Oh, TPs are gonna be pulled.
Ah yes, the
for
Wicked Witch of the
Baron.
Twitch. But never mind that, the Baron's been started. NYYRIKKI here, the package has timed out, and Banderas is indeed top lane. There is bot lane, sorry, there is no teleport, so this will be a 4v5. At least for now, they're going to try and turn around Singularity, trying to go in. They don't manage to find the engage, but in goes Mirza all the same, trying to stay alive, but he's taken so low. Falls down, Flipper gets that one person and sips down to desperately low HP. Flipper lands the stun with a bear slap. Abagnale managed to escape with the dredge line as well, and NYYRIKKI, I feel that maybe Singularity's time has passed.
I think Singularity, again, are overreaching for neutral objectives. You do not have to do that. There's other ways and other things you can do on the map. But Banderas was all the way down bot lane, trying to shove a lane, and then he walked all the way top. He managed to be there on that team fight. You do not necessarily have a fast Baron. You've got a Lilia and you've got a Swain. The Baron doesn't go fast as quickly as if you had an Udyr and an Aphelios and a
going in,
team.
trying to get onto Aero. He's flashed. They're going to try and get in on this one with the Hextech ultimate down. There is, of course, a massive shutdown. Another Baron that is swiftly taken. Significantly worse than it should have been.
And this is why you do not put your Corki on a side lane, even if he has teleport, because if Sips finds him onto the Camille, he is a dead mid laner. So really good stuff right there from Sips. Takes one of the Baron buffs off of NYYRIKKI as well. But now, the problem remains, if the only fight Singularity can try to have are through complete 5v5 team fighting, unless they have an impeccable flash R from Screwdy.
Been one or two of those.
Into a tag, into an R from Screwdy. It's a little bit difficult to engage fights, especially when there's a Nautilus there that has been doing wonders for them.
35 minutes into the game, they're going to break down that mid lane turret. Azitor forced to burn the cleanse to avoid the lilting lullaby coming through, and once again putting him under. Dr. Lilia definitely playing the role of anesthetic. Anesthetist, there's the word I was actually looking for, but Banderas is going to be put into the Hextech ultimate straight off cooldown as he's trying to get out, flashing away. Big Moonlight Vigil, but maybe not quite enough, and Flipper taken so down low as well.
Coming back.
Like you're doing their absolute best to get as much damage down as they can with the burst fire. But NYYRIKKI pull away, and now maybe they've got an opportunity to turn around, especially with Aero about and dangerous.
I'm just going to say, if you're here to learn macro, this is probably not the best game to do so.
Possibly not.
Possibly not. The fact that Aero again gets caught on a side lane takes down a lot of your side lane pressure, unfortunately, which means that even though NYYRIKKI do have Baron buff, they were pushed underneath their own towers simply because Singularity have the numbers advantage on the map. So these teams can unfortunately not find openings on the side lanes due to the loss of teleport on their top laners. They cannot create side lane pressure. If you send Corki, if you send Mirza onto the Swain on a side lane, they simply just die to the Darius and the Camille, and this is where your numbers advantage comes from. So if you can't send your top laners on a side lane, if you can't send your mid laners on a side lane, you're stuck in what we like to call in Europe an ARAM, which is exactly what's been happening for the last 17 minutes?
Something like that. 37 across the clock, a minute 14 until the Cloud Dragon will spawn, and that will be a soul one way or another, but never mind, now we've got a fight in this lane as Flipper about to burn down. Mercer secures it. Drowsy goes Banderas, and he's likely to fall as well. He's trying to heal it with a decimate, but it's just not enough. Mercer shuts him down to boot, and that's 2 dead with 55 seconds until the Dragon, and actually a wave to shove through. Maybe they look for a little bit more.
Yeah, but if you see Person and Screwdy are very low, which means they're going to have to press the B button and back, but that allows Singularity to actually go towards the bottom of the map, set down some vision, and prepare for the next Dragon that is up in 40 seconds.
Disaster. Scroody's not 100% kill participation anymore. And we're going to look at this play one more time because...
You did say it though, you did say it though,
I
but
did.
as you see, Screwdy will dive in there, slightly miss Aero with the tag, and even though you see how difficult it is actually for Banderas to play these fights, getting perma-slowed by the Swain, getting pulled back and forth between the Leona and the Swain and the Camille, is so difficult for him to try and find a way in. The shining light for NYYRIKKI though, Azitor, 3, 1, and 3. 4 items in his inventory plus stopwatch. Stopwatches have won games back to back to back. So keep our eyes on Azitor because this is going to be a big team fight that's going to end the game like they have been happening for this long. It's most likely going to be in 2 minutes when we've got another Baron spawning, and Azitor's going to have to play a big part in that.
Time allegedly waits for no man, but I see a few of those watches, as you mentioned, in this game. And it might break and pause for a moment or two in this game, and it could well be very critical. But Soul secured by Singularity. 5.5-ish minutes until an Eldragon's on the table. About 2 minutes, or just shy of that, rather, until a Baron spawns. And that might be another point of contest in this game. It's so very close.
And again, all eyes are in the team fights, all eyes are in the carries. How much Zpikee can carry a fight, how much Azitor can carry a fight. Both hyper carries, both had 4-item power spikes. This is the late game Azitor has been looking for, especially when he's in one of his famous champions that we got to know him for in spring. And all these teams can actually do right now is just push down the lanes, push down mid lane, try to get some vision. 1 minute remaining, you need vision around that Baron. Whichever team gets it first, gets first control. Whichever team gets first control, they get the first pull on the trigger.
A minute until that Baron. We'll have a final look.
Yes.
As our NLC pets, a brief tension breaker as everyone's on the edge of their seats,
Hey, we've seen
waiting for this
before.
next one.
I'll see it again.
What a beautiful, beautiful pair of cats. Freya and Puss are grumpy about Vanir GG playing late, and then are planning to nap until then. Sorry about that.
Actually, they are playing pretty late.
They are.
They're on last game of the day.
Indeed. So it's a cat nap. Don't have a nap right now. I think we're all a little bit too stressed for that right now.
Okay, we have 35 seconds
Indeed.
to wake up from that cat nap.
You had like 10 seconds of napping. That's all you get.
There is 30 seconds, and I think Sips has to start moving right about
Now.
after he pushes that bot lane wave, because it's a long way all the way to Baron, and if Singularity want to contest this, they're going to want their level 18 Camille with 4 items to be participating. There is Sips. He also has, of course, Cloud Drake,
Oh, yes.
which makes him move very fast around the map. And mid wave is going to be heavily contested. It's going to be very heavily shot from both sides. You need to have priority through that river to be able to come from all 3 sides into this Baron pit.
So many control wards, and of course the speed shrine as well means that NYYRIKKI have uncontestable vision in this river. With Baron alive, it's battle lines being drawn once again, but Singularity pull away, NYYRIKKI reset, neither feeling comfortable really to force the issue quite yet.
So we mentioned how Singularity are not very fast with Baron, but at this point we have a level 16 Zeri and everyone's like level 18,
Yeah.
level 16. It doesn't really matter if your team is necessarily really fast at Baron. Baron is going to melt one way or another. And again, you see how important it is for both teams to shove in that mid lane wave. NYYRIKKI know when they have priority and when this wave is theirs to push, and they will back off when it's not. Next wave is going to be NYYRIKKI's wave to actually push, because as you can see, a lot of channeling happening on the screen. Meza is also going to back, which means right now Singularity have 4 on the map. Meza is going to be mid.
Got himself a Morellonomicon in inventory to try and cut away some of that healing, and with the likes of a Darius and of course a Bloodthirster, a Aphelios, you can decide where you might want a little bit of that. Oblivion Orb is the final item from Screwdy right now as well, so clearly want to make sure they have at least a few ways to curtail those healing options and the safety that maybe this Aphelios might have. Otherwise, Sips sent to the side lane up here to try and clear this wave out, and again, as we've seen, it's been a little difficult to control those side waves.
Something that I've been very critical on as somebody who watches the game from the outside, is that I look over at NYYRIKKI's inventories and I see 2 control wards, 2 control wards, 2 control wards. Everybody who has a spot available that's not a completed item is prioritizing control wards over anything else. If I look over at Sip's inventory, I see a non-magic mantle instead of control wards. You see now 2 control wards purchased by person, and
Okay. The moment you speak about it, it becomes a Hex Drinker, which is a little bit more valuable, I suppose.
You know what?
I love that you had this really good point. I was completely agreeing with you, and I was just like, but there's a Hex
Never
Drinker.
mind.
Which, considering this Corki at 5 items, is pretty dangerous when it comes to AP values. I can see why that might be an option.
And I'm pretty sure his packets must be coming up very
Surely.
shortly as well, which means that he will have the teleport. He can back at any point, take the packets, TP back into the fight.
Flipper tagged by the Swell Seed, but no R key pressed quite yet. Mercer tagged by a rocket, and he's certainly less happy about that. That's about 20% of his HP bar just disappearing in a matter of moments. And Aero lands another onto Sip, but Scooty flashes it in for the lilting lullaby! Enough waiting, they want more, but can they actually secure some kills? The on-truck laser comes through, but all the while, NYYRIKKI being burned away, especially as that Moonlight Vigil comes through to maybe turn this one around best they can. But no one is dead, everyone pulls away, and despite an attempt from Scooty, there's just not quite enough to finish anybody off.
There's just no follow-up. You do not have champions of the side of Singularity that can jump in with you in the backline once you get the setup. All you have is a Leona pressing R on top of your ultimate, and that's about it. Singularity cannot gap close, they cannot find the opening, and there's a bunch of stuff that has been built. Very crucially, the flash from Scooty. We've mentioned how important he is in his team's engages, in him finding the carries in the backline. This fight is most likely going to have Aero with his package, because I see him waiting. I see the minimap, and he's actually waiting. He has teleport. This time it's going to be much harder, because you have to choose between a Baron and an Elder Dragon, and every team will most likely want that Elder Dragon. This time, though, Aero is sporting the package. Flash not there for Scooty. It's going to be much harder to play these team fights.
FedEx might be a little late on the delivery, but Corki looking to make sure it gets to where it's needed all the same. The cost of that mid lane play, though, was, of course, Singularity getting first access into the river, but NYYRIKKI have been quick to find their way into a potential flank angle. Abagnale here, hunting for that flash Dredgelight, hunting for a way to get onto a key carry.
Okay, Abagnale's Pinko would actually dropped into the pit, which means he lost complete control of the tri-bush.
Yes.
And now, if Singularity actually clear that bush, that means that NYYRIKKI do not have access to that flank, and Person is just gonna do just that, which means NYYRIKKI have to be very careful walking into that bush, which means they have just lost their chance for a flank. Aero is looking, he's gonna get tagged.
Ro does have to burn the puck, but now Sips is in the back of the pit, flashes out because he was caught in there, but that is packaged down. Flash traded by Sips. Elder Dragon started. Abagnale on the flank off Vision can try to look to get into the back. Person looking for the same kind of flank on the other side, but they get the hook into the dredge line. Singularity being forced to run away. Mercer demonically ascends, trying to do the absolute best. Sips still hunting for an angle. It's a solar flag going in, and actually, Singularity, I think they're doing it. Aero off to the side, doing the absolute best, keeping down Banderas, going so low. Azitor is going to try and get his one out. He's got Severum and Infernum, and they're trying to burn through as many as they can. Sips flashing away, but it's not enough, and Azitor's massive Aphelios finally comes through, and they will finally get the ace. And despite the closeness of the game, it's still NYYRIKKI that will come out with the win.
We said all eyes on Azitor in the last team fight of the game. You get this guy to late game, he will give you the big fat W, and that he will. He's died only once, he's got 5 items, he absolutely demolished Singularity in this team fight. Job done.
46 minutes on the clock, and NYYRIKKI find themselves a win after 6 consecutive losses. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't clean, but it was a win. They move to 4-9.
I'm just gonna stick on the fact that it wasn't pretty and it wasn't clean, because I'm not sure if Singularity are getting better or is any other team underestimating them when they play against them, because Astralis really struggled with a back and forth game. NYYRIKKI are struggling against them as well today with a really back and forth game, and I feel like Singularity are looking scarier and scarier for whatever team is gonna play them next, because again, you do not want to be losing to a team that every other team has beat, because it puts you behind on the playoffs race.
And it still means, of course, Singularity now to a very unlucky 0-13 game score. But of course, despite Scroody's best efforts on that Lilia, despite some pretty good early plays, couldn't secure the win. And that'll be it from us for now. We'll throw it to the desk to take us away with more of that game.
Thank you so much. So close for Singularity. This could have been it. One victory, but NYYRIKKI stay afloat with this one, and playoffs is still a possibility. A far shot, but still a shot. Let's look into this game and understand what happened, because Singularity had the lead, or some sort of it.
And I feel like the way to characterize this game, not to simplify it, but it did feel like it was partly the Scrooty show. You know, that was a really good performance on that side of things.
Good season.
But it was also, it also was, you know, it felt like Singularity were comfortable making big skirmish plays. While this was happening, though, NYYRIKKI was still... I mean, the eye candy looks great for Singularity, don't get me wrong, but I look at NYYRIKKI and they still have gold leads even when these plays are happening. You know, they take 5 plates bot. When someone gets a kill, it's like, okay, cool, but you're 10 CS down in every lane. What's happening there? It did feel like Singularity had the big skirmish plays, but there were some connecting bits in terms of how they played the map and how they played the lanes, which NYYRIKKI were just that far ahead in.
And it seems like if we look into Singularity as a solo queue team, they're doing wonderful. But on the other side, it seems NYYRIKKI has that sort of we play as a team. And at the end, it was more than enough.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case there. In terms of you talk about a team, I think one of the things that me and NYYRIKKI were setting up in the draft was the snowball nature of that Darius. I think that's really something that came into fruition there. You started to see Banderas just after a certain threshold. Obviously, Singularity were in the driver's seat for a lot of that game. Once Banderas really got going, it was the case that he just ran over these team fights, ghost into Swain. He's got 3 targets to hit.
If we're talking about team fights, I think we have a specific one around the Dragon to highlight this.
Because this was the first fight which NYYRIKKI started really winning as a 5v5. So before this was like, oh, Scrooty picks off Aero in the jungle, goes top lane, kills Banderas, and you can see Scrooty again starting things off, but while this is happening, Singularity go in and make the play, but they actually don't close down the Aphelios, who then gets the free hit. And then you look at Banderas on the other side, who's also hitting those targets you were talking about.
Yeah, he's just able to get onto these targets so easily. And like I said, there are 3 targets to hit. He's got the Ilona to hit, he's got the Swain as well. It doesn't matter that the setup is there from Scrooty. Scrooty time and time again using his flash, using his cooldowns consecutively to get those fights started, but it's Banderas who's finishing them every time.
And the question is, you have a way to the trigger. You pull the trigger to get the team fight, but is that any follow-up? Is that a bullet for Singularity, or is it just a blank?
I mean, you still have the, you know, you've got other engage coming in there, because you have like Leona, you have a Camille that can follow in. It's not like you don't have the tools. Again,
the gun was out of symbols?
Whereas like with M&M, it felt like they maybe didn't have the tools to finish off some of those team fights. This time, they did have the tools. They just didn't use them appropriately. The execution wasn't there.
It's a dramatic game. It's a dramatic principle, isn't it? It's Chekhov's gun. The gun is there, the principle is there, but it's too little too late in terms of when the actual theatrics are occurring in the game. I feel like Singularity, a team time and time again, in multiple iterations of their roster, they don't take their shots when they need to at the crucial moments.
We're talking about the negative, but now the positive for NYYRIKKI. Obviously, this was kind of a mess of a game for them, but they still stay afloat in that fight, not only to run away from allegations, but to look into playoffs. Is it too cloudy, though?
Oh, it's looking at playoffs. I'm not sure I could call that. I think after this point, you know, you've barely scraped through with a win against now a 0-13 team that matches Singularity's record from Springs, which of course they went in that same scoreline at that point. But you know, NYYRIKKI, I wanted to believe. I still do kind of want to believe because, you know, I followed this team for a very long time through the Finnish scene, through the Italia scene. This is a team with a lot of history for me personally. I mean, I cast some of my very first games in some of the Italia Masters and a couple of other. I think it was Open Benelux Tour as well of those. Yeah. There are a couple of series.
Old, yes.
I'm feeling very old about this roster. But, you know, I wanted to believe and still kind of want to believe, but they've set themselves such a hefty goal at this point that you need. Well, you need X7 to absolutely collapse, and while they have shown some weakness before, it's still very far off that mark, and NYYRIKKI still have a long way to go.
It's still at the end of the day that we get to see that game of X7, but today it's NYYRIKKI victory. Let's call it with the player that is going to be talking with us. It is Azitor, the man, the myth, the legend that pulled that Aphelios at the end. How are you doing? That was a rough one. That was way too close, no?
Yeah, it was way too close.
Okay, let's look into this game and tell me, it seemed like Singularity had the upper end on every single lane, but it seemed like you guys were farming and playing as a team better. Do you agree with this statement? And where do you believe it went wrong to allow Singularity to get to that statement?
I think they didn't really like outclass us in lanes, but we made some mistakes, like when we had a bounce on bot lane, Abagnale got caught pretty much for no reason, and that's why he died, and then we had to get help to crash the wave, and that kind of started it.
So small mistakes that allowed Singularity.
Yeah, small
to run amok.
mistakes.
Yeah, no matter. Yeah.
So that's small mistakes. Love to talk about some of the small successes that you have. You pulled out a Phalios this game, which is a champion which now, sometimes when I see the champion on the Rift, I accidentally call it Azitor because I saw you play that so much in Spring to such a high level. I love your weapon management, actually. But for people out there who are maybe less familiar with the Phalios or didn't pick up on a lot of that knowledge from when that champion was there, what's the thought process for you thinking like a minute, 2 minutes ahead to have the right weapons for the right fight? How do you go about that? Because you are uniquely good at that in the NLC.
I mean, I have the same weapon rotation every time. I have red to gray to green to blue to purple pretty much, and purple and blue change. But in this game, I think the best ones were gray and green. So I used the other ones like pretty fast, so I can use them in the fights. Like I think in the last fight, gray and green, I think.
You make it sound so simple, but
Which is
such
not.
a higher level to this. But yeah, really good to get your thoughts on that.
It's really interesting to see that your mindset not only allows you to run through that game and the position that you have on team fights, which is clean, by the way, and then also go through that rotation. That is high IQ. So can we go to the tough cookie now, Azitor? Can we talk about the tough one? Playoffs. Where do you think you're going to end the split? I know I have to do it, Azitor. Where do you think you're going to end up the split?
I think to get playoffs, we would have to win pretty much every game, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's pretty rough, I think, to get playoffs at this point. So I think at this point, we are just not looking to not relegate, at least.
Okay, so tell me something. Are you playing? Is NYYRIKKI at this point playing to improve for the next split, or actually get to playoffs? Because there's a big difference if you're looking into the future or the present.
I think we're just looking to improve for now.
Okay, seems good. It's an objective. It's an objective. So I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for this interview and congratulations on another victory.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. There you go. I love this when teams are like, okay, we're not good enough right now. Let's look into the future. Screw up now the playoffs. I don't care about that.
I think there is a pragmatism to that, right? Where it's just like, you got to focus on what's in front of you.
Yeah, I think it takes a humble player to say, you know, right now we're not necessarily looking to shoot above our means, you know, go beyond our means. I feel like just being able to kind of selectively, you know, be a byproduct of what's going on right now. You talked about the present. Looking towards the future, I think, really important for NYYRIKKI. These are players, we've seen them for a few splits now. You talked about how you've seen them develop over the course of years. I feel like Azitor especially, a player, definitely one that's developed a lot as we continue to see him. And I'm glad that his opinion is so aligned with that.
And they made a few changes, so this is a team that can only go up if they keep this roster at least. Now looking onto the other team, a team that also made a few, or at least a lot of changes, Singularity almost got their first victory, but they couldn't. So let's talk with Zpikee on the side of Singularity. Welcome back to the show. This was so close. This was so close. You got almost the soul. You got the lead on every single spot. It was a Scrooty show. What in your mind or your eyes was not there to give you this W?
I mean, it was. I think their comp was really favored in late game, right? I think we had the tools to engage when package was down, but we couldn't really find the right opportunity. I think we hesitated a bit too much, and then we had a few unfortunate fights where we got impatient and pulled the trigger too early or didn't do it the correct way. So I think if we just play the fights better, I think this game is ours for sure.
This is a good segue for the question that I had. Looking into the team fights, it seemed like you guys were not on the same page once the trigger was pulled. Once Scrooty would go in, Leona couldn't get the same engages as well. Is this something that you guys are still working on, the communication and the flow of the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the team fighting will get better with time. I think it's hard when we have all our gold on our jungler, right? I think we kind of wanted it to be more on maybe me or Marissa, but I think the communication is getting better. I think our team fighting is not quite there. I think it's a hard comp to engage on. They have pretty beefy frontline that they have to get through, but I think with time it will get better, I think.
In my opinion, I would say like you guys are looking cleaner as you guys go. Obviously, it's really late in the split. But regardless of that, you guys are making improvements. Now I want to talk with you specifically about something. You brought in the Zeri. Zeri was tweaked on the 12.12b. Do you still feel that she's in a really good spot, or would you like to play other sort of AD carries in the split?
I mean, I think Zero is fine, right? I think for this game specifically, we wanted to play around top and for Scooter, right? So someone had to kind of take the bullet and blind pick. And I was looking at either Twitch or Seri, and I think, I mean, the good thing with Seri is kind of you can survive lane quite easily. She has the dash, and you can kind of farm from rage a bit and be very safe. So I think in that sense she's really good, and she has a really good scaling. So I think even if you fall behind, you have tools to get back into the game. So I mean, obviously she's way weaker than before, but I think it's still a decent pick.
If you could pick any champion, what champion would you like to play as an AD carry? Like, what's your favorite pick as an AD carry?
I mean,
You don't care about the meta.
It's always going to be the Heimerdinger, right? I mean, I would pick it every game if I could, but I think it's. I think the champion is probably one of the strongest in the bot lane right now. It's just really hard to fit him into a team comp, right? Since he's AP and he builds Leandre, so I think unless you have a really good AD mid laner who can play like Yonias or whatever, I think it's really hard to pull him out. But I think this is just the most fun champion in the game. I would pick him every time, I think.
Hey, let's see what happens. Maybe, I don't know, into the future. By the way, Zpikee, keep climbing the mountain. You guys are making progress. Regardless of the place you guys end up, be proud of it. You endured a lot. Thank you so much for this interview. Have a nice one.
Thank you, guys.
Weird aside here. I am in a montage of Heimerdinger a place somewhere on the internet. I have no idea how I ended up there. I am, yeah. I'm not sure how this happened. I didn't take the clip of myself, but I am in a Heimerdinger montage somewhere on the internet.
I'm actually also in a Synapse video where someone gets a pentakill on me.
So you don't even relate.
So you're on the loser side of the clip. I'm on a montage as well as a Teemo player.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that happened.
Well, maybe we'll get a montage of Zpikee Heimer at some point. That'd be fun.
That would be
maybe
really fun to see.
that'd be really good to see. I'd like that.
See how the future is
Social
going
clash.
Social clash with Heimerdinger. But now it's on to the standings to understand where NYYRIKKI are right now. Singularity at the bottom of it, while NYYRIKKI are running a little bit away from M&M. And that early game today of M&M put them in a really rough spot.
And now you're looking at this bottom three again, because you have to. And while NYYRIKKI are at 4-9, that is with 2 games against Singularity, who have yet to pick up a win against anyone. So it's kind of inflated their score just a little bit. And when it is only just that little bit, it means a lot. You've only got 3 or 4 wins between you. So M&M, while it looks bad for them now, and it is bad, just remember there's that little extra bit on top of it.
I think also important for NYYRIKKI at the moment is the fact that you think about that Veneer X7 game that's coming on later today. There's a world in which they're only 2 games behind the pack if Veneer win that. And that puts them in real, like, touching distance, I feel like. You can pick up a few more wins.
Puts it in perspective, yeah.
It puts it in perspective, yeah, 100%. I still think they're a cut below the playoffs contention, but you can get lucky. Daft Punk showed us that.
You guys know what the next